All right, what's going on, everybody? I wanted to make just a quick video to recap my season 18 with the final stats. This wasn't my last war video, but I wanted to just kind of make a separate video with all of my cards and kind of everything to summarize the season. So before I do that, I want to kind of get into why I wanted to make the war videos and kind of what my goals were for the season. And which of my goals I accomplished, which of my goals I didn't. So the reason I did the war videos, there's actually three reasons. Number one, I had started playing pretty well towards the end of season 17. The last four wars, I only had one death. I was kind of starting to figure out flow a little bit better and just overall playing better. Number two was the change to flow. Most people didn't think that the change was significant, but for me, because I was running Corvus a lot, it allowed me to take certain fights that were flow fights that I could not take before, like some of the stun immune mini bosses and stuff that before I couldn't take, and now I could. And the third reason, and actually the main reason, was that the best player in our battle group, Bryn, retired. And when he retired, that meant that I was going to kind of move up in the pecking order, and I was going to get more fights and more opportunities. My goal for the season was to finish number one in power ratings. That was kind of the absolute minimum that I wanted to consider the season a success. I was number one in all the way back in season 5, and I've been mostly solid. I've never finished lower than 8th in power rating, but I've never really had another like great season, and I kind of wanted one, at least like a second like great season on my resume. And so this season I did. So 91-0, 128 power rating. That was number one in the Alliance. This was the only season ever that was both deathless and number one in power rating, which is pretty cool. I'm not going to break down like a war by war grade the way I did in the first half video, but I would give my season an A. It wouldn't be an A plus because I didn't break the record. The record is still 132.32 by Bryn. This is the second highest all time. Of course, the war, the what if will always be war number 6 right here, the one where I only got 2 fights. And I do want to kind of give a backstory of what actually happened in that war. So that war was during the Red Guardian Arena, and I'm of course going for every featured champion arena these days because I have all the time. And I made a joke in chat that give me the TJ treatment, just put me backup for this war, so I can do the arena. It was of course a joke. I never thought it could possibly be taken seriously because of how absurd it is, but unfortunately for me, it was taken seriously, and I was actually put on backup because of that. So this war is completely on me for being backup. It is not my BG leader's fault. So the blame all lies with me. If I had a good war, if I had like 4 or 5 more fights, I would have beaten the 132 record. However, you never know, right? Maybe I would have died during this war and then none of this would have happened. So, retrospect, who knows? Of course, I regret it. It's probably the most regretful thing that's happened to me playing this game. I would say after War 6 was probably the most kind of down morale-wise I've ever been at an individual season performance, just for myself. The fact that we faced Savage Squad actually, I think, kind of saved my season, again, just because I was so down. I had a good war. Of course, Savage Squad, Lizers in that alliance, a couple former evil members that I know are in that alliance, and that was just a really fun one. And that was also the war where I got back my number 1 power rating spot because someone else slipped up a few times and died to, for example, an Aegon. And I stayed number 1 for the rest of the season. So that war, I think, pretty much saved saved my season. So I do want to show all the cards. If you watch Tater's channel, you've seen all of these, but I do want to show them anyway and just kind of talk about each one. So this one was a silver card from that Savage Squad war. So you can see this 27,800 number. This is the reverb damage that I took from Killmonger on the Counter Tactics mini boss node on the mini boss island. So I threw this SP2 because I knew it was going to kill him, and of course Corvus, when he's awakened, he can't die as long as he has glaive charges, so I just thought that was a really cool number. This was from war number 8. This was one of the many times where Guillotine 2099 kicked my ass last season. And this one was the final war number 12. This was the Killing Blow, the special 3 from Medusa to Warlock, which sealed my perfect season. So that was a really cool one. So that means 3 times I was second in the Alliance in power rating for the war. I was also number 1 3 times. This 10.64 is actually not a very high number. I'm kind of surprised this was number 1. But this is one of the other times Guillotine kicked my ass. This was war number 5. So 13.34, which is pretty good. This was me getting some revenge on Rogue. And then this one is probably my favorite card I got all season. This was the highest power rating anyone had in any individual war, 15. This was in war number 11. So I had some rough fights in that war, but that was the one that gave me the shot, you know, at 90-0. 90 is kind of the number that I was aiming at, and this war I had 11 fights. So it was really cool. I really like the image just in this picture. I just think, I don't know, it looks really cool. It's not an action shot, but I just think it looks badass. So these are kind of the final cards. So this is the Ruby card that everyone gets for participating in the season. This was my Emerald card. There was 5 of these for the top 5 power ratings. So I'm 1 of 5 because I was number 1. And then this is the Diamond card. I am the only one who got one of these. This is for being number 1 in power ratings for the season. These were the 2 legendary cards. This was my Legends card from back in season 5 when I set the original power ratings record, 125.94. And then this was the gold card for the perfect season, 91-0. So Enzo also got one of these. So I am one, I am one of 2 people that has one of these. But this is a really cool one. And the final thing I wanted to kind of look at, this was more just for fun and just kind of to recognize some of the best seasons that we've ever had in terms of like power ratings for seasons. So what I did is I went back with Tater's help and I looked through every power rating chart. So at the end of every season, Taters puts a chart that shows everyone's power rating with kind of some of the main statistics like solar rate, true difficulty rating. And what I did was I looked through it and I gave them kind of, okay, these are the seasons that I need this stat for. So this TDR per fight, true difficulty rating, is a stat that we really kind of finalized this season. So we don't have this stat for previous seasons. So what he did is he went back and he calculated this stat for previous seasons for me. So he put in a lot of work. So huge shout out to him, huge thank you to him. He did want me to say that all of the opinions expressed in this video are mine and mine only. He has nothing to do with the rankings, and he has nothing to do with which seasons were included. So if you are mad about which seasons were included, don't PM Taters because it is not his fault. So with that said, these are kind of the top 10 that I personally picked out. So it's really interesting. You'll see some seasons with not as many fights, 59, 63, but super high difficulty ratings. So back in season 5, 6, and 7, if you remember, if you were playing the game back then, there was no 29. Node 29 gave crazy amount of points for power ratings because it was so much harder than all the other nodes. Most of the nodes back then were pretty straightforward, except for like 3, node 29, node 30, and then the boss. Pretty much every other fight was pretty simple. So you'll have some of these crazy true difficulty ratings like 1.55. Like you could not put up TDR like this, in the current era. Like even if you took path 4 and you took the boss, your difficulty rating wouldn't be that high. You also really can't bring a team for path 4 and the boss, but that's kind of beside the point. So the challenge was to try to balance, like how do you compare a season like one of these that has a ton of fights but a lower difficulty rating versus a season that maybe has 40 less fights but a really high difficulty rating. And so this is purely subjective. This is just kind of for fun. And again, mainly this was just to kind of recognize some of the best seasons. There's several seasons here that weren't included. For example, season 11, Panda Man Pete had a really great season. Brian Grant in season 5 went 84-0 with a true difficulty rating around 1.15. There's a few others. B Manny actually in season 13. If you guys remember season 13, that was when they cut off the war season after 9 wars. He was actually 68-1 that season, and he was on pace for a power rating of around 120. So obviously there's no way to know what would have happened. If he had a really strong finish to that season, he would have broken the record at the time, but he might not have, so who knows. And there's, I'm sure, a bunch of other really great seasons. None of mine, personally. These are the only 2 standout seasons I've ever had. So yeah, I wanted to just for fun, kind of rank them from best season to number 10. And I really don't know how to do this. Again, this is just purely subjective, trying to kind of balance this number, the true difficulty rating versus the solo rate versus the number of fights. Those are kind of the 3 main statistics. So let's see. Number 10, we will put. Let's see. Which one? Hard to say. I think this might actually be easier to go from 1 to 10. So the number 1 season all time, I believe, is this one, season 6 Dubes. I think that is the greatest season ever. To go deathless with a difficulty rating of nearly 1.4 is absolute insanity. Really, really crazy good season. Number 2, so let's delete that just so I get rid of it. Number 2, I think, is this one. So in season 5, so B Manning went 75-5 with a 1.5 true difficulty rating. So that means he was taking essentially node 29 and the boss practically every single war. So I would put that number 2. Number 3, let's see. I would go with, I think, this one. Season 7 Dubes. So this was 68-1. With again nearly a 1.4 true difficulty rating, which is completely crazy. So I would put that number 4, or sorry, number 3. Number 4, I think it's going to come down to these 3. Actually, this 1.3 is pretty strong. I think I'd still go with this one. I think season 5 Dubes is going to be number 4. Let's see. I think this 1.55, 1.37. So this is 1.23, but 91-0. Let's see. This is pretty tough. I actually think 76 kills with only a 1.3 true difficulty rating is actually pretty good. So I'm gonna put season 6 Pete at number 5. And then this one, season 6 B Manny at number 6. And then season 6 Nick F will be number 7. And then the next one is myself at season 18. So this was the 91-0, 1.23. 1.23 is a good enough number to make the top 10. And then the next one is my season 5. And then the 10th one would be season 17 Bryn. So this kind of would be my order of the greatest season to the 10th greatest season. Some people will probably think this is really dumb and completely disagree. That's okay. I think there's a lot of value in taking the hardest fights and not dying. I think that is the most valuable thing to have. You'll also notice that 3 of the top 4 are Dubes. He is, in my opinion, without question, the greatest player in the history of 4 Loki. He was with us for 3 seasons. He died 3 times over the course of 3 seasons while taking the hardest fights, which is absolutely insane. So I do want to give a shout out to him. Again, I do think he is by far the greatest player of all time that we have had in our alliance. So yeah, that'll do it for this video. Really cool season, really fun. Enjoyed it a lot. Really happy to get back to number 1 in power ratings. And we'll see if I do this again for next season. I haven't decided yet. I might, but I might not. Thanks for all the great reviews, I guess, for this season. Hopefully you've enjoyed the videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.